with great presentation, a great understanding indeed. Thank you so much, Miss Visande. And now, we will be discussing very carefully the topic number 4, which is the selection and training for international projects. By this topic, as per mentioned a while ago, this topic aims to let us understand how organizations select and prepare people to work on international projects. And without further ado, let us all keep the topic rolling. So as when professionals are selected for overseas projects and they do not work out, the overall costs can be staggering. So when we say staggering, it is the somewhat astonishing, or in this context, overwhelming in a negative way. So not only does the project experience a serious setback, but the reputation of the firm is damaged in the region. This is why many firms have developed formal screening procedures to help ensure the careful selection of personnel for international projects. In here, we can say that choosing someone can be the representative of the organization or the business is very crucial and vital. Choosing a person takes a lot of lists to be considered. Organizations examine a number of characteristics to determine whether an individual is suitable for overseas work. They may look for work experience with cultures other than one's own, previous overseas travel, good physical and emotional health, a knowledge of a host nation's language, and even the recent immigration background or heritage. Prospective candidates and their family members are often interviewed by trained psychologists who assess their ability to adopt and function in the new culture. So in here, it is very obvious that family has a great impact of an individual to work overseas, since they are the one who really know that person very well. They could be also possible to move together with that someone in accordance to the company or whatever the company decides. Well, there is a growing appreciation for screening people for foreign assignments. The number one reason for selection is that the personnel assigned are the best people available for their technical challenges of the project. This is by Mendenhall et al. 1987. Technical know-how takes precedence over cross-cultural sensitivity or experience. So when we say precedence, it is a condition of being considered more important than someone or something else. So it is prioritizing a lot higher than a thing or someone. So if we are weighing these both, it was written that technical known is much more prioritized. As a consequences, training is critical to fill in the cultural gaps and prepare individuals to work in a foreign land. Training varies widely depending on the individual, the company, the nature of the project, and cultures to work with. So in here, we have project professionals assigned to foreign countries should have a minimal understanding of the following areas. First is the religion. In global business, religion is a key factor in global team works together, schedule meetings, and more. Worldwide, religion is one of the key factors in workplace cultural diversity. Employees want religious beliefs and practices to be accommodated, including time during the workday for the rituals and time off from work for observances. So in business, it is believed that failing to recognize different religions and respecting the needs of individual employees can lead to team conflict, scheduling problems, and costly employee turnover. To help people from different cultures work together in harmony, it is essential for the people to be aware of the different religions and key events. The second one is the dress code. So dress code is a dress code that indicates the most appropriate way to dress on a certain occasion, be it on social events, work environments, or even to go to school or college. The goal is to standardize the look, making all people conform. It can be considered a facilitator when choosing the most suitable clothes for each situation. However, the lack of a dress code may work well for some companies, but a complete disaster for others. Therefore, it is necessary to be careful and to know the culture of each company well. And we are not saying that you should ignore your style and follow what society says. Dress code does not necessarily mean extremely rigid and formal attire. So if you are familiar with Nana Silahiro, TikTok star, that one that has Bebu, she once represented the Philippines in TikTok awards in Indonesia, and yet she dressed very sexy. And maybe that dress is vulgar to their view of that place. So at the end, she was advised to wear scarf just to make her appearance more of a formal, since it will be aired on the national television of that place. So yeah, we really should be aware and should have advanced research to where place will be assigned for international projects. Moving forward with the third one, the education system. Even when systems create conditions coherent for learning, ultimately learning outcomes depend on what happens in daily interactions. So for every organization that needs particular capabilities for delivery of student learning, there has to be a set of strategies and tactics for expanding those capabilities. Through this engagement, this seeks to understand how organizations within systems are able to nominate, to evaluate, and to adopt innovation. And also, this could be a venue to build the organizational capability to do each of these things, and how these systems create the condition in which organizations are authorized to do these activities, and that good fit practice diffuse across organization within the system. In layman's term, we should be able to determine where scope or field of education they are giving a lot of importance, to comprehend if we lack, and to always be that person that is teachable. Fourth in the line is the holidays, national and religious. Companies conducting business across borders should have a solid understanding of each market's statutory requirements and observance dates regarding holidays, as well as the significance and customs surrounding each holidays, which is said by Samantha Polivina. The public holidays you choose to recognize, how you recognize them, and the way you communicate your decision can affect key factors like employee engagement, inclusion, and sense of belongingness. That said, many organizations offered paid time off for holidays that align with the local country's federal holiday calendar, which rarely has been designed with inclusion in mind. And now we are down to the fifth one, which is the daily eating patterns. Few things are simple about international relations. The world's most studied state-to-state interaction are the result of decades, if not centuries, of history that labels. But international policy analyst Chris Fair sees a simpler way to understand why some countries are the way they are. The food they eat. When you go to Netherlands, you eat Indonesian food. When you go to France, you're eating the stuff from Northern Africa. In England, it's curry. In Japan, it's Korean. And in the US, it's Mexican. So when you go to these countries and see what the fast food or popular choice it is usually represents a deeper history. We should be always culture sensitive to promote respect to that place and the people around that. There were some places that won't eat meat, so the availability of pigs and meat as expected is too low or zero. So in this case, your favorite steaks may be passed for a couple of months or years in accordance to the contract. Now we have the family life. Organizations have a duty of care to their assignees, but does this extend to the families of assignees too? After all, relocation affects not only the assignee but the entire family, as what I have said earlier. When looking at the expired success factors, we cannot underestimate the importance of family support and involvement in the assignment project. Research shows a clear correlation between family support and a successful international assignment. Despite this, many organizations still overlook the importance of providing the assignee and their family with a support structure that can ease the adaptation process in the new country. This is where global mobility professionals can play a fundamental role in helping both the assignee and their family to adapt as quickly as possible. A bad start can set the tone for the rest of the assignment. The rules of the human community presuppose the cultivation of universal forms of behavior that facilitate the communication of people, demonstrating maximum peace, respect for each other. To these norms acquires a special meaning in international communications. Since every state is also individual, adherence in its own historical development, social and economic order, and national and cultural traditions. The concepts of etiquette and protocols are largely similar and interrelated. Therefore, protocol and etiquette is a better considered not in isolation but in a complex. So when we say business protocols, the basis and essence of the protocol is an expression of deep respect for the high guest, the country, and the people that he represents. Although, of course, each country's protocol has its own nuances, knowledge of which facilitates international and foreign economic contacts. So, when we say social etiquette, on the other hand, the rules of etiquette are basically international, as most of them are observed in all countries of the world. Simultaneously, the etiquette of each country inherits customs and conventions from ancient antiquity to our days and has rather significant features, which is due to historical, national, religious, and other traditions. So etiquette and protocol are one of the main components of forming the image of any business person, civil servant, organization, and play a very important role in the successful conduct of business, including international. And now, we are down to the last one, which is the equal opportunity. The importance of equal opportunity in the workplace is very vital. An equal and inclusive workplace culture allows all people to thrive at work regardless of their background, identity, or circumstances. Equal opportunity law aims to promote everyone's right to equal opportunities, eliminate as far as possible discrimination and sexual harassment, and provide redress for people whose rights has been breached. So many people believe that equal opportunity requires that advantaged position be subject to open competition. So this is view in sometimes captured by the slogan careers open to the talents. The idea there is that jobs and limited educational places should be open to all and that selection procedures for them should be designed to identify the best qualified candidates. But even if it is a necessary condition of equal opportunity, it cannot be a sufficient condition. If it were, equal opportunity would permit differences in people's social circumstances, such as the economic class, family, or culture into which they were born, to have too deep an impact on their prospects. On the screen is an illustrative sample of companies that contains the difference between short-term training developed by Underwriter Laboratories Incorporation, and we have also here an extensive type of training by Peace Corps and their volunteers. So the scenario goes this way. It was illustrated the features of short-term training program that is developed by Underwriter Laboratories Incorporation to train staff who travel to Japan to work with clients on the projects. So the program is designed around a series of mini lectures that cover topics ranging from how to handle the introductions to the proper way of exchange gifts to the correct way of interpreting Japanese social and business behavior. So the 2-day program consists of lectures, case studies, role plays, language practice, and a short test on cultural terminology. It concludes with a 90-minute question and answer period, and at the end of the program, participants have a fundamental understanding on how to communicate with the Japanese. So more importantly, they know the types of information they lack and how to go about learning more to become effective and intercultural communicators. So it was depicted the number of days they have trained that would affect the information they are gaining. So on the other hand, other training programs are more extensive. For example, the Peace Corps volunteers, as I have mentioned a while ago, they have undergo an intense 2 to 4 month training program in their country of service. So the training includes classes of the history and traditions of the country, intensive language instruction, and cross-cultural training, as well as homestays with local families. So many companies outsource training in one of the many firms specializing the overseas and intercultural training. We can see that the length of training or program is a lot longer since they have proposed on gaining more information and more knowledge in a more extensive and more detailed way. To explain very carefully on how this approaches its length of training and the specific information that will be acquired, figure 15.7 attempts to link the length and type of training with the cultural fluency required to successfully complete the project. Three different learning approaches are highlighted. This is in accordance with Mendenhall et al. 1987. First is the information giving approach. This is the learning of information or skills from a lecture type orientation. So at this type of approach, we are able to listen or to dwell with the information that we are getting. We are also penetrating all of the possible ideas that this type of approach could offer. So listed examples here are the area briefings, cultural briefings, films, books, use of interpreters, and survival level language training. So example here is the orientation in the beginning of the academic year. So we have listened, we are able to penetrate things, to remember what to do, what to not to do, and so on. So now we are down to the second one, which is the affective approach. So it tackles the learning of information or skills that raise the affective responses on the part of the trainee and result in cultural insights. At this type of approach, it is more likely the small hands-on activities and getting of ideas. So we experience many activities hands-on and we learn from that. So this approach consists of culture assimilator training, role-playing, cases, culture shock, stress reduction training, and moderate language training. So we could also picture out here is our daily approach to the school. So we are able to learn that aims to affect our daily basis. We are subject for molding into something that would benefit us all. And now we are down to the third and last approach, which is the behavioral or experiential approach, variant of the affective approach technique that provides the trainee with realistic simulation or scenarios. So at this kind of approach, we are able to be more specific and be more hands-on literally and be more hands-on on study. So we could say that the amount of preparation and after doing a stop will really take time. So we have concluded of these examples like the assessment center, field experiences, simulations, and extensive language training. So we could see this as our on-the-job training, the OJT training. We are able to experience on hand all of the operation that would bring us learnings and experiences. According to this framework, the length and level of training would depend on the degree of cultural fluency required to be successful. In general, the longer the person is expected to work in the foreign country, the more intensive the training should be. Length of stay should not be the only consideration. High levels of cultural fluency and therefore more extensive training may be required to perform short-term intense projects. In addition, location is important. For example, when in Russia, you should keep a straight face because smiling is deemed an intimate gesture. According to the research, smiling for no obvious reason makes Russians suspect you're being false. So another thing is in Japan, exposing one teeth while laughing is considered impolite, owing to a Buddhist belief that exposing one's bone is a filthy act. You can of course laugh and yawn while dining at your newly discovered sushi restaurant. Just don't forget to cover your mouth with your hands. So for those who are very loud up in laughing, I know some of you, joke aside. So we should at least practice this culture of the host country if we want to go to Japan. And now we are down to the summary. So the number of international projects continues to increase and nothing on the horizon suggests things will change in the new millennium. More and more project managers will be needed to implement international projects. There are few guidelines for the fledgling international project manager. Preparing for international projects can be enhanced through training. As a general background, potential international project managers can benefit from a basic international business course that sensitizes them to the forces of change in the global economy and to the cultural differences. Learning a foreign language is also strongly recommended. Further training specific to the host country is a very useful pre-project endeavor. The length and type of training usually depend on the duration of the project manager's assignment. So, we suggest to review the figure 15.7, still self-learning, on-the-job training, and experience are the best teachers for international project managers. Preparing for a specific international project requires serious pre-project homework, understanding the motivation of the firm in selecting the project, and its site provides important insights. What basic political, geographic, economic, and infrastructure factors were key considerations, how they will impact the implementation of their project. Finally, preparation in understanding the cultural differences of the host country go a long way toward making positive first impressions with the nationals in managing the project. International projects have a distinct personalities. All people are not the same. Differences within and among countries and cultures are numerous and complex. Project managers need to accept these differences and treat them as real or live with the consequences. What works at home may not work in the foreign country. Americans are regarded as friendly by our neighbors in the global village, but Americans are also noted to be insensitive to differences in local cultures and customs and awkward in our use of language other than English. That ends our presentation. This is Kenneth V. Ongyot saying although most attention in foreign project is focused on technical efforts and their cost, the project must be carried out within the environment of the country's social customs, work practices, government controls, and religious beliefs. In most cultures, sincerity and flexibility will pay off. This is Group 2 saying thank you so much for listening and now signing off.